You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. When John Mateer came to Oklahoma, many people and still are operating under this assumption that John Mateer is going to be a one and done with the Sooners, that he's going to come to Oklahoma, put together another really, really great year, and then he's going to go off to the NFL. I'm just not so sure that that's going to be the case. Let's start with some of the facts here. John Mateer signed a 2-year NIL agreement with the Oklahoma Sooners that could pay him up to $3 million over 2 years. That's not chump change. That's not anything to sneeze at. Like, it's not like he's, dependent on escalators and hitting certain milestones. Like, that is guaranteed for him if he's at Oklahoma for 2 years. I mean, it's nice work if you can get it, but you can get it if you try. Mamas, let your babies grow up to be quarterbacks. So that's the first part of this. The second part of this is you look at some of the 2026 NFL draft projections, and it's really early. Obviously, it's really early to be looking at some of this stuff, but it can give you a bit of an indication as to what at least the media draft analysts see in some of these players. Now, it's limited data because we don't have the 2026 or 2025 season, to go on. So that's going to change the dynamic for some of these quarterback evaluations. But let's take a guy like a Dillon Gabriel, for example. Coming out of the 2023 season, he was getting undrafted grades. Like, not many people were looking at him very highly, right? He was expected to go off to the NFL draft, didn't come back to Oklahoma, and ended up portaling to Oregon, had a great season, ended up getting drafted in the 3rd round. Now, Mateer's projections are a little bit better than where Dillon Gabriel was, and a lot of Dillon Gabriel's projections were due to height concerns. Shorter dude, 5'9", 5'10" in stature, and some arm strength limitations. But Cleveland drafted him in the 3rd round, maybe a little bit higher than what people were expecting. He was probably more of a mid-rounder, like a 4th, 5th guy. But this quarterback draft was just weird all the way around. Shaddur dropping as far as he did, Quinn Ewers dropping as far as he did. It was just crazy all the way around. But Dillon Gabriel is kind of a bit of an example. So John Mateer maybe he's a little bit taller than Dillon Gabriel. He's coming in maybe 6'1", 6'2", but he's kind of thick like Dillon Gabriel, like a Baker Mayfield, like a Jalen Hurts, guy that is just muscle bound, just strong, thick. And he needs to be, because he's going to take on contact when he runs. But you look at some of the projections that you're seeing out there for John Mateer, and in one place I saw he was the 9th quarterback, projected to be the 9th quarterback in the 2026 draft class. Again, assuming that some of those guys ahead of him, like an Arch Manning declares, and some others. I've seen 4th round projections for John Mateer. I've seen, anywhere from like a 5th or 6th round draft projection. Now, are these projections set in stone? Live them. They're the gospel of what's going to happen in the 2026 draft cycle? Not at all. Media analysts get it wrong all the time, just like recruiting analysts can get it wrong from time to time. But it had me wondering, okay, could John Mateer come back and play 2 years at Oklahoma? Even if he has a really good year in Norman with the Sooners this year, I think it's possible, man. I think anything is possible. You go look at Cam Ward. I mean, he spent 2 years under Ben Arbuckle at Washington State before going off to Miami, and then catapulted himself to the number 1 overall pick. You look at, again, a guy like Dillon Gabriel, who played out his eligibility and improved his draft stock. And I think John Mateer could be a similar dude. There's nothing that necessarily indicates that he's planning on being around for 2 years, except for that NIL deal that was reportedly $3 million over 2 years. But the relationship with Ben Arbuckle, what he's meant to Oklahoma so far, just as a leader in the program, someone who's really poured into the program, both on the field and then off the field as a recruiter, I think it speaks volumes to him. Now, he could just be doing that because he loves Oklahoma and he just wants to put his best foot forward and he wants to put the program in a good spot for when he leaves. But it could also mean that, hey, I'm going to be here. When you get here, I'll still be the quarterback here. So come play with us. Come play with me. Let's do this thing together. Let's get out there and let's go make some noise in 2026 when you arrive on campus. Or it could, again, just be a guy that is doing the good soldier and going out there and putting the team's best foot forward. Who knows? But I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that he could be a 2-year guy at Oklahoma. I hope he is. And that's not to say that I don't think Michael Hawkins Jr. couldn't be the guy in 2026. I absolutely think he could be the guy in 2026. But if you do get 2 years out of John Mateer, I think that helps your program even more because you're getting a guy with so much experience to lead your team for another year. And it gives Michael Hawkins another year of development to get ready for his time in 2027. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. Sitting isn't going to hurt Michael Hawkins Jr.'s development. Once he gets in the game, he's going to have a chance to be one of the nation's top game breakers at quarterback. His speed is crazy. Now, if he's the quarterback in 2026, I think he's going to have a chance to be a big time playmaker for Oklahoma, both as a passer and as a runner. But if it's not until 2027, because Mateer decides to come back, I think he's even better off because he just, again, another year in Ben Arbuckle's system, another year to sit and learn. And John Mateer showed what sitting behind quarterbacks and learning and just taking in the process and being patient, what that could do for you. So when it's your time to get on the field, you're ready to go out there and produce. I think sometimes we decide feel like we need to fast track these quarterbacks and we got to start them as true freshmen, or they got to be the starter by year 2. And that happened with Jackson Arnold. Now, a lot of the circumstances around Jackson Arnold weren't great last year, and they weren't great around Michael Hawkins last year. Michael Hawkins made the best of it. Jackson Arnold made the best of it. They had some big performances. Hawkins against Auburn, Jackson Arnold against Alabama, but the circumstances just weren't great. And it did not give them an opportunity to truly show what they're capable of. Were they at times maybe trying to do too much and that led to some turnovers? Yeah, it did. But I don't think we saw the ceiling potential for either of those quarterbacks. So if Michael Hawkins can, regroup, reset in 2025, and if he's the starter in 26 or in 27, he's going to be a much better player by the time he takes the field as a starting quarterback for Oklahoma than what he was in his true freshman season. When, again, he wasn't terrible. He helped you win the Auburn game. So there's a lot to be said for having John Mateer around for a second year in Norman. And I think it benefits everybody. Not just Mateer, not just Oklahoma's win-loss total, but I think it benefits everybody in the quarterback room. It benefits the offense. It benefits Ben Arbuckle. It benefits Brent Venables to have quarterback continuity to where you're not going, Gabriel, Arnold Hawkins, Mateer, Hawkins, where you're having a new starting quarterback each year over the last 4 years. I think that benefits the program to have a little bit of continuity one year to the next. A lot of Oklahoma's, the lack of clarity around Oklahoma's future, some of it depends on what John Mateer decides to do after the 2025 season. But I think, and maybe again, me speaking optimistically, it might sound crazy to think that the guy's going to want to stick around for 2 years, but crazier things have happened. Coming up, we're going to discuss what Oklahoma's added in the transfer portal and Sydney Berzon, and where should they go next? Coming up here on Locked On Sooners.